Morning all. I'd like to ask you the question why Fischer didn't ever play the French defence. I can't find a single game in Chess.com with him playing the French defence. Well, maybe this game is a slight clue. What I'm about to show you was a friendly game, I believe, played at Reuben Fine's house in 1963. Either that or a chess club. Not entirely sure. But there were a number of games between them in 1963. And this is one of them. So Reuben Fine, playing white, played e4. To be fair to Fine, he had retired from professional chess many years before to become a psychiatrist, psychoanalyst. So Fischer played c5, and we see actually Reuben playing the open Sicilian, and in particular the Fischer-Sozin attack, popularised by Fischer and Sozin. Sozin, by the way, was a player born in 1896 in Russia, specialised in openings, and around 1930 advocated, I believe, this variation, which was first analysed by Paul Saladin Lennart before the First World War, and it was later made popular by Fischer. So Fischer here is on the black side of a Fischer-Sozin attack, because after a6 we see the move bishop c4. Now you may wonder, what has this got to do with my question? Why would Fischer never play the French defence? Well, we get a glimpse here of something I think particularly special, believe it or not, in relation to the French defence strategies in any case. Black plays now e6. Fischer plays e6, blunting the Fischer-Sozin bishop. It goes back. And now we see b5. This is a very energetic move. Two things, bishop b7 and b4 to drive away the protection of e4 is very useful. Perhaps white should consider a3 here. We see queen e2, and Fischer now just plays bishop e7, and now a very aggressive looking move, g4. What we have now is remarkable in some respects. I consider it remarkable that black strategy is very, very clear, crystal clear, and if we'd wanted to play the French defence, one of the classic issues is the bishop on c8. We have in the French defence usually a structure with a pawn on d5 and a pawn on e6, and we get some benefits usually, sometimes in variations of French defence, the c-file and the c5 square. What we see now basically is a kind of transposition into an extremely favourable French defence type pawn structure. I'm not saying it's a French defence transposition, it's a French defence transformation in terms of pawn structure, because Fischer now plays b4, and the idea after this is not to put pressure after knight b1 on e4, but rather navigate now towards the French defence pawn structure. Fischer plays d5. So even though we haven't got any games of Fischer playing the French defence, this is a kind of French defence pawn structure. White now doesn't play ed. Maybe that's his best move here, but that would be slightly better. For example, ed, knight d5, castles. Black has an energetic h5. Takes knight f6, for example, rook d1, queen c7. Black should be doing okay. White should maybe consider sacking a pawn here to keep things closed. But you see these weaknesses around the king are a bit horrendous. So this is unpleasant to play ed5 in principle. So we have now e5. And what does it look like? It looks like a French defence in Fischer's hands. What is one of the key issues of the French defence is this bishop, and it's blocked in on d5. But look at this pawn, it's on b4. What about this diagonal for the bishop? What about the pressure on e5 as well? That's a classic French defence benefit. You've got pressure on e5. White plays bishop f4. Perhaps he doesn't want to play f4, weakening this diagonal even more potentially. Now a classic French defence move, queen b6, putting pressure on d4. White plays knight f3. And now this bishop is showing to be really dangerous already, just after the move a5. So this is a very brief glimpse of Fischer playing a kind of French defence structure, and already he's sorting out the classic French defence bad bishop, and he's also threatening a4. So it's actually a lot better than any kind of standard French defence position you could dream of, with threats of a4 and bishop a6. White has played disastrously. He has to address a4, let alone bishop a6. He addresses a4 by playing bishop a4, and black now just castles. Okay, we see bishop e3, and now there's pressure on e5 again. Queen c7 is played here. The bishop goes to d4, but now there's powerful bishop a6. White can't even afford bishop b5. I think black could just take and maybe take on c2, for example. Queen e3, and now the bishop is victimized. Knight c5, and it's pretty bad actually, because bishop b3, there's a4 just munching the bishop. a4, there's no time to take here. That would be attacking the queen if white takes, still losing a piece. So this is looking a bit horrendous, that white is forced to play bishop takes c5. We see bishop takes c5, and where can the queen go usefully? Well, perhaps the queen should have gone somewhere, and this next move doesn't look at all appetizing. White played knight d4, which looks like for a moment an impressive knight, but now Fischer's next move is very powerful and simple, and a standard, kind of very bog standard looking French defence type move. Queen b6, just putting pressure on d4. White has to resign here. You might wonder why. Why is White resigning here? Can't he play c3? The problem with c3 is b takes c, and White is forced to play b takes, otherwise he's losing the knight. And if he plays b takes, then there's queen b2 winning the rook. Queen's not being trapped or anything. So what I found impressive about this game, and I hope you find impressive as well, is Fischer wasn't going for the e4 pawn or pressure on e4. He went for a fantastic transposition into a French defence pawn structure by playing b4 and then d5. He's got the idea of a French defence pawn structure with the bishop coming out on a6, and a lot of classic French defence moves around c5 and pressure on d4 we witnessed. So this might be one of the closest games, or rather a close game, to Fischer playing at least a French defence pawn structure by transposition from a Sicilian defence. So b4 and d5, a very powerful mechanism for us to bear in mind, I think, when playing the Sicilian defence. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.